Word Wranglers, it's Ali here. I'm an editor and book coach based in the UK, and I'm here because I believe that the story that's in your heart is the one that you're meant to tell and write, and I absolutely believe that you can do it, and hopefully I can help you along the way. So today we're going to be talking character arcs, because character arcs are such a vital part of most stories. Notice I say most. And the more you learn about them and the more you think about them, the more compelling your book will be, the more compelling your characters will be, and the more excited readers will be to keep turning the page. So let's dive right in. So let's start real simple. What is a character arc? It's basically the journey your character goes through. So if you do like a superhero story, your journey is probably going to be a small town boy living on a farm, learns they have superpowers, figures out how to use them. That's really simplified, but basically that is a character arc. It's where your character starts and all the things they go through to get to the end of their book. So why is a character arc important? Essentially, it makes your character interesting for your reader, because it's not going to be very interesting to read a book where your character doesn't really develop, doesn't learn anything, doesn't really change anything. You could make an argument for in specific circumstances that might be part of the story, but in general, you really want to have a character who is changing or learning or growing in some way, because you want your reader going on that journey with them. And that's true whether it's like the most high fantasy battling dragons or somebody trying to open a boutique clothes store. Whatever journey they're on, you want your reader to join in, and for your reader to join in, a strong character arc is an absolute must. It makes your character compelling and it makes them relatable, because obviously a big part of a character arc is usually learning to think differently or deal with some flaws. So they're relatable, they're a real person, they have the same foibles as real people, and then your reader can get on board with that, get invested in their story and want to see them move forward and achieve what they want to achieve. So now we've got the basics down, let's get into a few tips for how exactly to build character arcs. And one of the best tips that I can come up with is start at the end. Know where you want your character to end up. Now, if you happen to be a pantser or a discovery writer, which honestly many of my clients are and I myself am, that's fine. You don't have to have it down in exact detail. Just have an idea of where you want them to end up and an idea of where you're trying to take them. You can always adjust a little bit as you go if you need to. Now, it sounds a little counterintuitive, but start at the end can really help here. Say, for example, you know that you want your main male character to learn the importance of asking friends for help. If you know that and you know that's where you want him to go, you can start constructing the other parts of his arc to eventually get him there, including some pitfalls and downfalls along the way, because every story needs a little conflict. But if you know where you're aiming at with your character, it makes it easier for you to build the arc. Also, by knowing where you want the arc to end, you can pay close attention to the beginning, because you ideally want the beginning and the end to be a contrast to each other. Now, depending on your genre and your story, it might be subtle or it might be a lot more dramatic, but you want to have the sense that the person who is in that situation at the beginning of your book and around about the time of the inciting incident, by the end you want to have the feeling that they would have approached that differently in some way. Either they would have made a different choice, or they would have handled it differently, or even perhaps they would have responded differently emotionally. But that is the beauty of also knowing the end before you even start the beginning. Another one of my favourite tips for building character arcs is get to know your book's theme. Get to know why you want to write this book, and this takes a little bit of soul searching and a little bit of digging, but it's really, really worth it. Look at what moves you, what inspires you, why this book, why this story, why these characters. Is it something going on that you want to work through? Is it something you want to explore? Is there a specific theme that you're looking to explore, or something you want to do within your genre, maybe subverting the genre or just giving a different take to something? Whatever it is, the more you know your reason for writing your book, the more you can build your character arc. Now, obviously you're not necessarily the character, though of course for many authors, bits of them do definitely go into the characters. But even so, your characters are how you tell your story to your readers. They're how you express your themes to your readers. So the more you know your themes and your reasons, the more you can weave that into what's happening with your characters. And then you're going to have a stronger voice and you're going to have a stronger arc because you know why you're doing this. So that is really worth taking some time to sit with. Now the next thing you need to do if you want to create compelling character arcs is give your characters opportunities to grow. Now, they might not take those opportunities to begin with, and they might not grow to begin with either, but put them in their path. We've already mentioned the inciting incident, something that happens near the beginning of the book that steers them off in a different direction to where they thought they were going. You also have sort of your midpoint. Often at the midpoint there are going to be some challenges. The midpoint is a really good time to show a character thinking they've learned their lesson and thinking they've learned what they need to know, but something comes along and they find out perhaps they're not there yet, perhaps they're not quite handling it as they would want to handle it. It is only the midpoint after all. They don't know that, but we know that, so we need them to not have learned all of the lessons yet. Another great opportunity, of course, is the dark night of the soul, where everything just goes a bit wrong and it looks like they really haven't learned and they feel like things are never going to get better. And then often that can be followed by an aha moment where they start to integrate the lessons they've been learning throughout the book. They start to see that they could in fact handle it differently, that they could make a different choice. So throughout your book you want to create these opportunities for your character to grow, so you have a bit of a kind of a peaks and shallows, you know, you want to keep the reader interested, so you want your character to keep growing. Obviously, like, it's different for every book, but something that can work quite well is to have them kind of like grow a bit and then fall back a bit and grow a bit and fall back a bit. We're going to talk more about that at the end of this video. But basically, yes, give your characters lots of opportunities to grow, see what they do with them, and don't let them off too easy too soon, because they have to keep growing to keep the book interesting. Sorry characters, but that's just the way it is. Another really vital tip when you're dealing with character arcs is you have to show your reader if your character is growing or if they're not. And obviously there are lots of subtle ways to do this, and the main thing is just how do they act? How do they react? What do they do? What do they think? How do they respond? And it's your job as the author to kind of let the reader know what this character is working on. Obviously you're not going to like give them a little TED talk about it, you're going to weave it into the text so it reads naturally. But we need to know what the character's working on. What are their, like, you know, fatal flaws? What do they struggle with? What are they trying to get better at? Let's just like make up a quick example. We've got a female main character who's trying to work on having better boundaries with an overbearing family member, or better boundaries in general. And at the beginning we see that she really struggles with this and that she agrees to things that aren't the right choice for her because she doesn't have the boundaries. Now, as that book goes on, you're going to want to show that character learning to have better boundaries. Keep it realistic. They're probably not going to have one moment of revelation and go, well, that's it, well, hey, I have boundaries now. If you've ever had to work on your boundaries, which I know I have, that's not how it tends to work. So you want to show them getting a little bit better. Maybe she takes a little bit more of a step. Maybe she agrees to do something, but she's a little bit stronger on setting the parameters around that. Just let her keep growing. You know, you're going to maybe want someone to have a sort of midpoint crisis, dark night of the soul. She's trying to do a thing, but she's not quite there yet, so the boundaries kind of become an issue again. But eventually you're going to see her getting better and better at it, so that by the time she reaches the end of the book and sets those boundaries more clearly and is kinder to herself, the reader is going to have gone on that journey with her, and the reader is going to be thrilled for her that she did that. So make sure your reader understands clearly where your character is in response to the arc that you've set them on. So one last quick bonus tip for you. Remember that character arcs don't have to just go straight, and in fact that would be kind of boring for your reader. Instead, let your character learn and then trip up a little bit, learn and then trip up a little bit. You know yourself, if you're dealing with an issue in your life, like say you are learning to get better boundaries, like in our last example, speaking out, being more confident, not pushing yourself too hard at work, whatever it is you're working on, it's really rare for us as people to just work on it and then go, that's it, well hey, it's done. I've had my revelation and now I'm fixed. We wish it worked that way, but it doesn't. So let your character get up and fall a little, get up and fall a little. Let them make mistakes as they work through their arc. Let them learn organically the way people do. And in fact, the thing I just said, where you're like, yeah, you know, I'm sorted, and yeah, you really wish it was that way. You can play on that in your book. Have a character, have that little moment of hubris, like, yeah, I've learned my lesson now. Guess what? They haven't. You can really play on that. So I hope that helped. But that was a little chat about character arcs. I hope it gave you plenty to think about. I hope you enjoyed the video. This is obviously a fairly new channel. I've been doing most of my posting over on TikTok up until now, so I'm just wanting to share a little bit more about what I know, what I do, and really I'm just here to help books be born, because books are magic. So if you enjoyed this, don't forget to like and subscribe to see the next video.